Okay, so Aftermath. I just watched this on Netflix, and honestly, when I sat down, I couldn't even remember the title of the film. We're not off to a good start. So, this has one of the chicks from Twilight, Ashley Greene, I think is her name, and it has Shawn Ashmore, one of the Ashmore brothers. I never know which one's which, to be honest. I always just wonder who's who. I'm like, which one is the one in X-Men? And which one's the one in Frozen? And which one's the one, like, I don't know. I really don't know. It's okay. Those are probably the same two guys, though, right? Or the same guy for both of those roles. Maybe? Maybe not? I don't know. Anyway, maybe this is the same guy for all three of those roles? Whatever. Anyway, so we've got one generic ass movie here, and it is almost 2 hours long. Fuck you. Wow. Okay, so the film looks great, right? Although, I'm taking a film class right now, and I will tell you that with the available options people have these days for cameras and for gear, you do not have a excuse for having a shitty looking movie, okay? Now this does look really good. So this has a very professional look to it. But I feel like if you have a decent camera, if you have a good camera, and you have a basic education, then you can make your film look like this, right? So that's not all that impressive. That being said, I still wanted to mention it. The film looks clear. It looks good. And the acting in it is good. It's fine. It's totally adequate. I think it's good. There's nothing wrong with that. So there is this couple, and Shawn Ashmore's character, he is he's like a sunshine cleanup kind of guy. The Sunshine, what's that movie called? Sunshine Cleaners? Is that what I never saw that movie where they clean up dead bodies. I don't know what those guys are actually called, but I always call it that because I don't really know what their names are. I'd like to watch that movie at some point. But anyways, that's what he does for a living. This this couple die in the house, and so he and his wife, Shawn Ashmore and his wife, they're having marital problems. She had an affair, and they're trying to get past that. And so he decides that, you know, he can probably get this house for pretty cheap, seeing as what just happened there. And so they decide to move, and they do get this house for fairly cheap. And while they're there, of course, strange things start happening, and you wonder, is the house haunted, or is it some disgruntled ex-person, you know, the guy that she was fucking around with, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or is it one of them, or is the place actually haunted? And that's like really the only mystery in the film that you really care about, is to figure out what actually is happening throughout here. This has every typical trope in the books. All the horror in the movie is terrible, okay? Outright awful. It is as generic as humanly possible. The dramatic elements of a couple that's struggling with an affair and their lives after is good. It's fine. It's not enough to keep me interested in the film for as long as it was. I definitely feel like this film could have been easily 20 minutes shorter. There's a whole subplot with him taking classes and getting himself involved with this girl, and I guess they kind of set that up as like a red herring. And there's a few red herrings in the film. Now, I'm not going to say whether or not those red herrings become anything in the film. I'm just going to say they're there to be red herrings. Whether or not they pay off doesn't matter. But there's just, I don't know, there's so many things like that I'm like, this doesn't really go anywhere. This doesn't really do anything for the film. So does it need to be here? Like, I get that it's a red herring, but is it necessary? Does it really bring anything to the story? It doesn't. It doesn't. It really only fills more runtime, A, and B, it also creates this suspect in this. And of course, some kind of like anticipation of like, oh my god, is he gonna fuck around too? Is this gonna turn into that? But nothing interesting happens. There's no risks taken in the film at all. It's that film where the person moves into the house, they say it's haunted or something's going on, and everyone thinks they're crazy. The only thing that was slightly interesting to me was that there were these kind of strange occurrences going on in their life as far as like, people kind of setting them up for certain things. And then there's conveniences that it seems to be that it's not just one answer going on here, that there's multiple things going on here, which is just seems pretty far-fetched, right? It's like the Occam's razor kind of thing. And that's not what's happening here. So, I don't know. It's too generic for its own good, and it's too long for its own good. But it looks good and it's well acted, but not a recommendation at all. It's just one of those films that you put on and you just want to slap yourself across the face like, oh my god, why am I watching this? Why am I watching this? They're not going to do anything risky at all. They're not going to kill off anyone unexpectedly. They're not going to bring anything interesting or unique to the table that puts a different spin on the genre. The ending reveal is something you've seen 10 times. I could name fucking 5 movies off the top of my head that went this route, and I was like, oh my god, they're really going for that? We haven't seen that before so many times. I get it. It's hard to be original. I don't expect films to be completely original by any means. But to just try new things to a degree, if you're gonna be generic, be like risky with your generic. I know that sounds weird, but you can only be so original. So if you're gonna take tropes, reinvent the tropes. You see what I'm saying? And this film does not do any of that shit. This is not worth your time at all. And that's a shame. That's a shame. But it's always a shame when you don't like the movie, right? So 2 hours, come on. It was like an hour and 50 something minutes. Outrageous for the kind of movie this is. This is generic as fuck. It should have been an hour and 20 minutes long. Actually, it should have been 0 minutes long. Anyways, I'm over it. Adios.